Welcome, I'm Adam Keim from Tarleton State University's Dick Smith Library. At the end of 2020, we were excited to be notified that of the 300 libraries that applied, we were one of 200 to receive a grant called Libraries Transforming Communities, focus on small and rural libraries. As part of the grant, one of our librarians, Melissa Cookson, took an online course in how to lead conversations, a skill vital to library work today. On July 22, 2021, she facilitated a conversation at Fuzzy's Taco Shop in Stephenville about job searching. Megan Ratcliffe from the Cross Timber Society for Human Resource Management, Jana Floyd and Kim Wallace from Personnel Services, Marcus Taylor from Tarleton State University Career Services, Manda Luna from Workforce Solutions for North Texas, and several library employees and community members discussed topics such as resume writing, career assessments, preparing for an interview, and more. The event was recorded. Unfortunately, the first half had to be cut due to poor sound quality, but we've made the second half available for those who missed it. If any of the topics discussed sound useful or interesting to you, please contact the speakers or their organizations, or stop by the Dick Smith Library or the Stephenville Public Library and check out one of the new job searching books that the grant allowed us to add to our collections. Job searching can be stressful, and we want you to know that there's support for you if you need it.
Now what we're going to get into is what do you guys consider the stages of the job search process?
First, you'd be wanting to identify what kind of job you're looking for, and tailoring your resume to that, seeking out resources to help you prepare in the event that you are able to get an interview.
I think what Manda touched on earlier is, even participating in an assessment. So you have a deeper understanding of what it is you actually might want to do if you really don't have any idea at all.
Yeah. What do the assessments involve?
It's a little bit of everything. So it could be anything from a personality test, your interests, because a lot of times a personality test or any of these assessments can just be very encompassing on all different job details. And it's going to ask you, on a rating of you like, dislike. That way it can have an understanding of what it is, an overall scheme of what it is you want to do and participate in.
We have one called Stratify where you take a look at pictures and you click on it, it's me or it's not me. And people will say, well, it says there's a thing of orange paint there. Is it orange or is it paint? I'm like, you have to pick that. And they say that you can retake it and it's still going to come back, true to who you are. But that's a nice, easy one to get people comfortable with it. And then Work in Texas has some Allison on it where they can do all different kinds of assessments, and stepped up different too.
Then you have to decide what you're going to apply for, I guess, or where. Look to see who's got anything open.
A good thing would just be look at some different companies, go and look at company websites and see what opportunities are out there. And even if there's companies that don't have opportunities at the time, but just to try to get a feel for what industry you might be a good fit or might have an interest in.
And that's good too, because they can find out about the company and see if it's truly a company they'd like to work for and find out what it is that they liked about that company, what they do, whether it be green or, and then they can make a connection. And I think when they make a connection, it helps them, come to life with that.
And it's important to know something about the company if you're going to go for an interview. Have an idea of what they do,
What do you tell people to look for in potential employers?
I would think, I think it's important to look for, like the company's, mission, what they're all about and what
Yeah,
their
that's a
benefit
good
programs
question.
are, a lot of them, most of them list on their website, what their benefits include, like 401k, health insurance, things
That's
like
true.
that. I mean, it's an employee-owned company. I mean, so
Mhm.
a lot, you will find a lot of information about that on the homepage about a company, but just get to know that company and how they take care of their employees, how they value the employees, what's good like that. It's definitely
That's important.
good
I say
information.
core values, looking at core
Yes.
values gives you a good indication as well.
Yeah, and I think getting them the reviews, sometimes are,
Yeah,
the reviews will
From the
tell you a lot
employers and
about
things,
companies.
yeah.
So,
And I do tell them to be careful with those reviews
Yes.
because it could be somebody
right, because
just
some of them
wrong,
are,
but
exactly.
when you
like
connect
anything.
with the company and you connect to their mission and their
Mhm.
core values, and then you see, the things that are important, like employee engagement, that's
Yes,
gonna be key to them.
In the interview process too, I mean, I would say, after you've done that research, does that hold true? I mean, when you're in that interview room with, the panel, whoever you're speaking with, do they seem to kind of carry those same kind of foundational beliefs and, a good kind of checkpoint for you too, if it's maybe or maybe not a good fit for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Yeah, doing your homework on the company, see if you're going to be a good fit for the company. And that's the most important thing also about the interview process is it's not just you selling yourself to the company. The company also needs to kind of do the same thing for you. And you need to decide if that company is going to be a good fit for you as well.
Well, I say
That's true.
research the person you're gonna interview with too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a really good resource.
Yes.
there's, I never, in the job search, there's several different LinkedIn groups and things like that you definitely want to connect with.
Yeah.
Yes.
That presence is very important in job search.
And it really is a great professional network to
Yes.
help people. We had one of the person that wanted to get into, a realtor. I'm like, okay, let's get you connected on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Let's make those connections with the type of work you want to do. Here's where you can start searching. She connected with somebody. They actually reached out to her and said, I'd love to be your mentor. And she's like, oh my gosh, I would have never thought business owners would just, do that. And so she ended up going to work with them, passing her real estate license and going to work for them. And
Amazing.
she's like, I can't believe, it started with LinkedIn, reaching out to some of the people there. And all of a sudden I had all these people helping me out.
Would LinkedIn work no matter what job you're interested in?
So,
Variety of
Yeah.
people on LinkedIn. I will say this is a tidbit for people who don't know this. When you get on LinkedIn and you are viewing other people's profiles, it does show that you viewed it. So I mean, you very well could be asked in an interview, like, what were you researching? Did you learn something about me? Or you could use that to your advantage and ask questions of the interviewer about their background. And I wanted to say one thing, kind of stepping back to the stages of prepping for this process. Social media was mentioned earlier. We're talking about LinkedIn. Like, I know you guys do like a digital dirt, or you used to do like career services had that offering or class. Yeah, I mean, make sure it's cleaned up, or if there's stuff out there that you don't want people to see, change your settings. Like, we don't want to see it either if it's bad. So, make sure you take care of business before you start applying for jobs there.
Yeah, that's a good part of the guidance.
And LinkedIn can be a very powerful tool when you are searching for a job, but it's very important to remember that LinkedIn is a professional job search tool. It is not a social media site like Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. So it is a place to maintain professional appearance. Don't put the above camera photo on your LinkedIn profile. Try and get a professional headshot if you can, or at least a professional picture done whenever you are putting it on LinkedIn.
So basically, it's like a social media resume, sort of.
You put your resume on it, you can do job search, you can make connections. I had a guy that was pretty high up in a company that the job was, they just switched, they moved the job out of the state, and so he had to apply and he wasn't having any success. So I said, well, go on LinkedIn and find out about the company. He said, I went on LinkedIn, I found out about the company. I went to the company headquarters and said, here's what I'm looking for. Can you help me get kind of contact? Here's my resume is on LinkedIn, and he got great response. And he said somebody from the headquarters also gave him the local office to contact with a contact. It was for like a controller position. So, it's pretty good.
You mentioned websites and such on a number of occasions. I assume all of y'all, for the most part, keep job listings on your websites. Is there a particular day of the week, really, that if you're wanting to look at what's some of the newest stuff, is it best to go in on a Monday or a Tuesday?
We enter jobs too.
Yeah.
So.
All day.
It's any day, yeah. Anytime.
We'll say, like, applying for jobs, apply for them as soon as they're posted.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, as
The
early as
sooner
you
you
can.
apply,
Yeah,
yeah.
because otherwise you get buried, there could be 70 applicants for a position, and they've already looked at the first 10 and said, hey, like, we want to go ahead and move forward interviewing these, and we'll go to those later. So the other 60 at a later time. So as soon as you can apply for positions, I would.
Yes.
Even if they say that there's like a due date or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely apply.
And we have some companies that they say, well, just keep it evergreen. We're going to continuously, look for people because we have a high turnover in this type of role. So you may not see it new, and it's just, it could have been from 6 months ago, but they need to keep hiring and get a pipeline going.
So going back to the whole social media aspect, let's say they've been on social media their whole life, whatever. They've got like pictures that maybe they wouldn't want employers seeing. How do you advise people like fix up their social media? Do you give tech help with that? Do you just give tips on the kinds of things that they want to lock down?
Yeah, like you were
And
saying.
all they see is your
Yeah.
face or whatever you have on the profile. And they won't see it.
Sometimes it's hard to
Yeah.
delete things, but the internet, like, in some cases, when it's out there,
It's out there.
So
Because you can
really,
Google search your name and
Yeah.
see what comes up.
so really just do your best not to post. I mean, I know
Yeah.
it's hard if you start early on social media, but do your best not to post things that you wouldn't want, like, your grandma to see. Let's just
Right.
use that as well.
That's a good-
And just remember, it's a reflection of you,
Yes.
You make those choices. And so it, like you said, change the settings for one thing to start with, because
Yeah,
that could be your best friend there.
And I think it is fair to remember that employers at the time, if if you're a college graduate and you're looking for a position, and some things you might have posted back when you were in high school or 16 years old, a lot of employers will take that into consideration. It's a lot of the more recent activity on social media that's going to be the most relevant.
Yeah.
If someone has a common name, should they worry about what someone else's social media presence may say about them?
Not really have that one come up.
yeah.
I think in the case where there's so many duplicate names, that's kind of I've not come across it where somebody's been concerned about it. Because, at the end, most are going to do a background check, or they're going to do whatever due diligence and do their references, and it's going to come out. So I wouldn't be as worried about that.
There are some, depending on
Yeah.
how locked down you have your profile, and some of those social media sites, there are other key things just besides the name you can use to pair someone, like where they're working or, things like that. And so hopefully that would make that a little less likely.
Yeah.
So is there anything that we haven't talked about that you guys think we should cover?
So when you start applying for jobs and you're putting your references on there, how would you go about telling those people that you put the most references? Like, my boss, Tanya, I'm going to put her on there because, I think she likes me. But when I apply for certain jobs, I'm going to be applying for so many. Would it be okay to just say, hey, I've applied for several jobs. Please be expecting a call from blank, and just maybe include the area code? Or how would you think?
Email addresses. too.
Email addresses.
And phone.
And what about past jobs? So like I said, I worked for that catering company, but that was 6 years ago. How important would it be for me to put contact information for them?
Yeah.
7 years.
And it's good to have 3 to 5 strong references. And if you're letting them know, and asking their permission to be a reference, so you're not blindsiding them, but having their address, their email address, and a good phone number, that's always the best. Because most people are doing a lot more by email.
And what do you think about people that you didn't work for? Say like, I do meetings with somebody in tourism. What if I put them on there? Is that
Yeah.
Just identify what they are to you.
okay? Okay.
And, like sometimes we'll have youth that have never had a job. So we're like, okay, you have a youth minister, a soccer coach, have you been teachers?
Yeah.
Let's pick a variety of things that, can give you a reference and give you a good indication of how you've been.
And where is it appropriate to specify who they are? Would it be okay to have a separate reference sheet and be like, this person is this person to me, as opposed to having them on your resume?
So what we suggest is to actually have a completely separate document for your
Yeah.
references anyways, because most job or most applications online is going to ask you for your resume and then your references in a separate area anyways. So it's not necessary to attach it to your resume.
So if you have that online resume that's maybe 2 pages long, and then the 3rd page is going to be your name, like a continuation of the head, and it's just going to say references, and it could be like Manda Luna, friend, and that, or it could be, Marcus as a supervisor, however, and you can put it either right next to their name or right under it.
Okay.
Just to identify if it's a personal friend or a supervisor. And a lot of the jobs will ask you for a supervisor related reference, and not so much as friends, unless you're just have not had that much experience with work.
Okay. Thank you.
So what do folks do if they can't list their supervisor for whatever reason as a reference?
If they can,
Let's say they were fired, or maybe they're one of the folks with the gap in their work history and their previous supervisor has since retired or left.
Maybe there's other employees at the company
Someone
that
they
can
work
just
with.
confirm.
and usually there's the employment line. But if you don't list, a workplace and they want to know where that gap is, eventually on a credit bureau or a background check, it's going to show that you work there. And so we always try to tell them to, examine how you're going to approach this, and we can help you talk through some of those conversations, but I wouldn't eliminate it or omit it from your record.
They might still have it in their resume, but like if the supervisor can't, if they can't ask their supervisor to be a reference, would that be an issue then?
We call human resource office, if not office manager.
What about specifying, don't call this supervisor? Is that okay?
Are you currently working? If you put that.
Yeah. If you're currently
working there, we
working,
don't have an
please
issue
don't
with
call.
it. If not, I would just, I don't know if I would enlist it or you would just call human resources.
Kind of like the good, the bad, and ugly.
What if there's not a human resources? What if it's a one person company that you're working for, but you're like, I don't want you to contact this person. Not that you ended on bad terms necessarily. You just don't feel like they're a proper reference for whatever reason.
Maybe you're still working there, you don't want them to know that they're job hunting.
Yeah,
And
definitely that is
definitely that,
understandable.
and that's understandable and very appropriate. I mean, most people are gonna mark that you.
Yeah,
you
do not
don't-
call, or
yeah,
we
you
won't
don't
call if they're currently employed if they would
Yeah.
not.
But other than that, I don't know that I would list someone as
Do not call,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and there may be times you get a bad reference and they don't indicate
Right.
that they're gonna give you a bad reference. And so the employer may investigate a little bit further about, tell me what happened, why you left your last job. And, they'll dig and eventually find, that talking point that you're a little bit more comfortable with.
But you said, like, if you're currently working there, you
Yeah.
usually don't call them?
Right, and
You
you can
won't
definitely
call
not call if you're currently employed or don't put an end date.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just put currently employed.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Sure. She's some good questions.
She does have. good
Yes.
questions.
So we touched on this during the break, but how important is your email address when you put it off out there?
Depends on what it is, yeah. I've had
Professional.
several that were,
And you can get a free one with your name on. We'll get Big Bad Wolf or Big Bertha or,
Yeah.
it's like,
worse than
think
that,
about
yeah.
change, that was put.
I wouldn't use an email
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that
I
if
would
I was
recommend-
applying for a job.
I would recommend getting a professional.
Yeah, just
email
create a
email
Gmail
for
or
job
Yahoo
search,
or
yeah.
whatever, iCloud or
Yeah.
something, yeah. It does give you kind of an opinion where you kind of,
Yeah.
I mean,
Read into it.
Yeah.
right,
I'm just full of questions.
That's great.
Y'all are all gonna know who I am by the end of this, it's fine. But what about an address? So if I'm applying for jobs, let's say in Houston, and I'm from Houston, should I use my parents' address, or would it be appropriate to omit an address completely?
It's good to list an
I would
address.
put an address,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, I think kind of when we were talking a little bit earlier about like cover letters, if it is an instance like if you're from Houston and you're applying for a job in Steveville, as a hiring manager, I might say, "Ooh, like, how she looks like, you gonna look like, what are we talking here, So the cover letter could give you an opportunity to explain some of that, but I would want to see, I guess, an address is where I would prefer to see that.
And I think as Mixu, we tend to say, keep the address off it recently, only because of stalkers and if you're using it online. Whereas like what you said with the cover letter, you want to make sure you have it on there. But on that resume, you could put your email address and your phone.
Mhm.
And we say put one phone because an HR is not going to track you down
Mhm.
like 4 or 5 different numbers. So
Right.
one good number, a good professional
Have a
email.
voicemail
Yeah.
set up. Oh my
Yes, and
God.
set your voicemail.
You'll
up.
call
Yes.
people and there's no
Oh,
voicemail.
no. Do
And
y'all
you
call
know
a
they
lot
have
of people and it's like,
phones.
this number is not available?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to try.
Yes.
I mean, after
Yeah.
that.
Right.
I took a hold of it.
Yeah,
Right.
time to move on, yeah.
This user has not set up.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Or they're not taking messages at this time.
Yes, or.
Yes.
I'm like,
or
really?
mailbox is full.
Full,
Yeah.
yes.
My dad does this really infuriating thing where he actually blocks all calls that he doesn't have saved in his phone.
That's okay,
So-
the voicemail.
He does have a voicemail, but like it won't take it.
Oh.
And so there was this one time in high school when I got into an accident in my car and I tried to have my friend in the passenger seat call, and it wasn't a bad accident. And it wasn't a big deal, but he blocked her number. And I was like, I'm going to need you to not do that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No kidding. Sometimes if I don't know a number, I'll let it go to voicemail.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of spam.
There is so much
But
spam.
I'm gonna leave a voicemail if I wanna reach somebody.
Right.
So, detailed,
Because
My
you could be
name,
on
phone
another
number,
line or something. and
what
you're
it's
not gonna
about,
stop.
yeah.
So back to the address thing. What about just a city? So if I put maybe Cypress, which is a
Mhm.
sub area of Houston, would that be better than leaving, like putting no address
Yes.
at all?
I think so.
Yeah.
A lot of applicant tracking systems ask you, like when you're filling out
Yeah.
your profile, they
Mhm.
say.
It's
like,
in
where
there.
are you from? So I
Right.
guess that's one other way we would be able to gather that information. So, I mean, and I don't know that it has some details, like the street address.
Yeah.
In particular.
Ours,
all
they can
those
put a
systems.
period and not put.
Yeah, yeah.
I've just always learned when you're doing a resume, you put your first name, your last name, your address, your phone number, and your email. And then I've seen here recently people not putting addresses. And
That could be too tied into a lot of remote work
Yeah,
positions. Because no matter
It
where
is.
you are,
It
you know,
is.
so
That's true.
That could be a new trend.
Yeah. And I think the remote is a good thing, and just the online, having visibility where you don't want people to know your
Right.
address.
City and the
You know, years ago, you used to have that paper, you know, a resume that you gave to everybody, and then if you're at a job fair, you know, they got that one size fits all, and
Yeah.
now, you know, you can tailor it all. So if you're gonna post something online, you really don't want everybody knowing your address.
Yeah.
Although they
Right.
can find it if they're gonna find it. But, I think that's why we've kind of taken the line of take the address off, but again, here we are. It's okay to be different.
okay, thank you.
So speaking about the voicemail stuff, you guys got super excited about that. So I'm wondering, what other things have you seen folks do where you're like, oh, no, please don't do that?
A message they leave on their voice.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, that's a good one.
That is a good
Yeah,
one.
like in the city, I'm tied up right now.
Yeah.
So maybe you can reach me later.
Yeah.
You know, okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Just your tone of voice. I mean,
Right.
that gives you the,
Right.
This is John Doe, guess leave me a voicemail and I'll get you, you know, and you're just like, that does not sound very like,
Yeah.
go
Like
get her, you
eager.
know, and I already have like a first impression of you because of how
Yeah.
you spoke in your voicemail message, so.
I like it when I became a grandparent, you know, and so it's like the baby screaming, and it's like, yeah, that's me, new grandparents. And it's like, and it's the husband and wife talking, it's like, oh my gosh, it's been like 3 minutes, stop talking so I can leave a message, you know, kind of thing. So it really is crazy, the voicemails people leave.
Mhm.
And they think it's cute, but not when you're looking for a job.
Right,
Because some employers will just say, oh, no way.
right.
So the voicemail is part of the first impression.
Yes.
It is.
Are there other things that folks don't really think about that you encounter sometimes?
We're talking online or,
Anytime that they're trying to apply for a job, it could be online, it could be
Face-to-face.
in person.
yeah.
I think we've touched on a couple of things, but I know one thing, proofreading a resume, because if there's a bunch of misspelled words on your resume, it's immediately going to leave a bad impression. Of course, you know, spelling your name correctly on your resume, putting your contact information, and then, you know, going forward into an interview, actually dressing the part. So actually, you know, dressing up for the interview, don't show up in shorts and flip flops like it's beach day. So,
Yeah.
I'd like to get others' feedback on this too, because I've seen it both ways. You know, you don't ever want to show up late to an interview. That's
Oh,
of
no.
course a given. But you know, I've had also folks show up so early, like
Oh,
45 minutes early. and
That's
then
too early.
Then it's awkward because they're
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, we're not quite ready for you. And if you don't, not all places have like an area you can stage
Yeah.
to hold applicants. So I'm glad you're eager, but it's almost maybe it's too much sometimes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
We've
y'all
had to have
understand that.
people wait in their car, you
Yeah.
know. to drive there.
and that's what we suggest is, you know, if you're going to show up early, if you want to show up 15, 20 minutes early, that's fine, but you're going to be waiting in the car until about the 5 to 10 minute mark before you
Right.
do walk in.
And then, you know, we also say drive around to the business, see what, you know, they're dressing like. And if you're calling to do a face-to-face interview, ask them, you know, what is the appropriate attire there? And that's okay. You know, they're gonna wanna help you. And so if you can, you know, dress like I had somebody the other day and I said, don't wear a dress to this place. You know, wear pants and more of a warehouse environment. And so she's like, well, that's good, because I was gonna go get a dress and go in there, and I'm like, you know, I just know that this business is looking for somebody who's gonna be comfortable in this. And so she ended up telling me she got the job yesterday, and she said, I'm so glad I checked it out first and saw that everybody does wear pants and they wear a t-shirt. And so that's important, not to overdress as well as underdress.
And know where you're going.
Yeah,
Being early is one thing. Being
Yeah.
late.
it's worse,
not
yeah.
good. Yeah. And if there's an important reason or something, that's different, but to show up 20 minutes late and just walk in like nothing.
Yeah.
realizing as soon as you do walk into that place of business, I mean, that's when the interview starts.
Yeah.
So the first person you make, contact with, they're going to probably relay it to their manager, Okay, this is how they greeted me. This is how our interaction went. So, I mean, your critiques start as soon as you walk in the building.
Even the
off
parking
in the
lot, I would argue,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you park in the employee of the month parking spot,
Yeah.
and they come up, they're like, who parked
Who's
in
in
my
that?
spot, you know?
Yeah.
And if they got a big bay
Be
window
aware,
to watch
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Just be very aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to always say the
Phone off or not.
gatekeeper, win the gatekeeper over, and they were always the receptionist, because if that receptionist, got a great first impression, they would be like, oh, you got an interview, just watch, and so that's good, the way you can mix with that person.
Well, even like the security person, like, the security booth
Yes.
before you even get to the receptionist as
Yeah.
well. I mean, that
Yeah.
interaction there is,
Mhm,
Always want to be courteous to everyone.
yeah,
and I think showing up alone for an interview, so many times
Oh.
people will show up with it, they can bring their spouse and the children and or friends or
friend,
whatever. And so
yeah.
it's very important to, with all these other things, but also to come alone for the
Mm.
interview.
Don't you come.
Yeah.
It's just a pet peeve. I don't know if a lot of people do that.
Turn off your cell phone.
Yes,
They're
or
like,
leave it
"Oh,
outside, yeah.
go to the interview with questions to ask the employer, and
Mhm.
people think, well, I really can't, invade that space, and I'm like, yes, ask them, show a personal interest, and, really getting to know them and why you would be a good fit for them. Ask them how they came up through the ranks, or however you can get comfortable, something you read online about their company. Ask them questions. If I were gonna be in a customer service position, I'd want to know how I could impact, the customer service. So what are some of the things that I could do to make this, transition successful and be successful in my role?
Another question that's probably really hard sometimes for people to ask, but it's kind of tying back to feedback. So, before you leave, is there any questions that I haven't answered, or have I left you with any doubt in my ability to be able to take on this role? Because, you may get some hard feedback and be prepared for it, but you may not get that feedback afterwards. It shows initiative that you at least considered these are some areas I need to work on. So tough question, be prepared for what you might hear, and, be prepared to absorb it and move on from there. But I definitely think that's a good initiative type of question.
That is a good question.
Are there others? Sorry.
Is it appropriate to ask, potentially, why are they hiring? What the situation with the position? Is this a brand new position with the company, or,
I think that's a great question, because, you can get that answer, have they made different openings, are they expanding? So it's another way to know more about that company.
Yeah. Did the previous person in this position move up? Did they leave for a different
Yeah.
company? Did they move laterally within the company? So it's all relevant.
What other questions would you recommend that folks ask? Sounds like a little bit about the previous person, something to do with the employer. Would it be okay for folks to come in with the questions written down, or is it something they're supposed to think of while they're doing their interview?
I think that that's fine. If you, come to, the interview with a portfolio and you have some questions and you're done doing the interview, and then usually they're going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? That would be a perfect opportunity to say, well, yeah, I did write some down if I could, ask you now. And then, you don't want to come up with a barrage of questions and really say, try not to start talking benefits and what am I going to be paid, and, when are my benefits going to start, things like that. But find out more about what you can do to make a difference there.
Just to second that, I think, you don't want to come in with too many questions, because if you're short on time or whatnot, that could cause an issue. So, or maybe prioritize beforehand. What is it important for you to walk away knowing? And then again, just to your point, the benefits, the pay, that kind of stuff. if you can get past this step, that will come an opportunity for you to be able to talk through those things. So because you don't want to get yourself counted out if you go into the pay discussion and you throw a number out there and maybe that's not really what they're at just yet. But you got to sell yourself first to get to that offer point.
Yeah. And it's a great time to learn about, the company culture, like how am I going to fit into this role, this position, the environment, the team environment that's already at this company.
And also, when will you be making a decision? I think the worst thing that I just get heartburn over is when people haven't heard back. And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, have you asked? No. Well, at what point will you ask, do you want to call them? Did you ask them during the interview? So it's always a great idea when you're wrapping up that interview to, talk about when will you be making a decision? Will you call me? Can I call you? So if they say, yeah, we want to have this wrapped up by Friday, great. Can I call you Friday afternoon? I mean, I'm probably a little bit more aggressive with teaching people that, but I just sit too many times where employers are not getting back with their job seekers, and then they're, going up. I'm like, don't wait 2 weeks with that gut, feeling like, oh no, I don't know what happened. Take the bull by the horns, find out when they're making the decision, and ask, if they'll be getting back to you.
And it's a good time to also, in the thank you email or a handwritten note afterwards, let them know that you're going to be following up with them in case you haven't heard anything at that point. That way they can be expecting the phone call.
And if you do a group interview with 3-4 different people, send them all individual thank yous. Don't group it.
I would recommend the follow-up.
Yes. Yeah.
Get everyone's name if it is a group.
I always say when, you've got a group interview and they give you your card, put them in front of you where they're sitting so that you can use their name as well. So, you're already nervous enough, not knowing who you're talking to. But if you can put those cards down in front of you.
And once again, going back to the interview, is bring something with you to write down and take notes with. Once again, you're already going to have it. Always bring an extra resume just in case. You never know. But also, pen and paper to write down notes. That way you can relate it back to your questions. That way when you get home, you don't forget everything that you just learned.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've touched on this very much, but like interviewing, I guess I think oftentimes if it's in person, but online interviewing, just being conscious of your background. Like, can you blur it out? Like, are you set up in your bathroom? Can you just be very, I guess, aware of your surroundings and do the best you can with that.
Find that
That's a good point.
quiet space.
Yes.
Try to have the blank background, plain colors. I mean, it's okay to have maybe 1 or 2 pictures, but you don't want a busy background that's really distracting for the person interviewing.
And I mean, I don't know how y'all's thoughts on this are, but like pictures, for instance, because that gives a lot. I mean, I don't know how much you want them to know about you personally up front or how much you feel comfortable with, but just things to think about. If you have family photos up there, maybe you're worried about age. Maybe there are things you don't necessarily want them to see up front. So just checking what's in your background if you have an opportunity before you get into that interview would be good.
So getting back to the whole follow-up, let's say that they hear that they didn't get the job. Is it okay for folks to call and ask for specifics?
I think it's okay to call and ask, understand, thank you for the consideration. Is there anything I could have done to improve or some things I can work on?
If they'll give you that feedback. Just don't burn any bridges. We say use it as a, connection, because one HR person could know another. And, there's been times, my previous life was a banking and brokerage. So if I didn't have somebody who would fit, I had 4 other friends that worked in different banks. And I'm like, this wasn't a good fit for my new office, but, they said that you could call them. And so we would connect with different employers. And so you're building that network even when you don't get a job.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what are the top things that you would say that you want folks to know just going into a job search? I've heard like about proofreading, make sure that you think of everything as like a first impression. What would you consider the thing that folks should most know?
I think just being patient. It's important to be patient. You know, I know sometimes that feels discouraging, but you know, just trying to stay focused. And if you don't get that call back in a week or two, I mean, I've seen it where it's been 3 or 4 weeks. It's just they hadn't gotten around to sourcing those candidates, and so just don't be discouraged. Try to stay positive. There's lots of opportunity out there. It's just finding the right one that's going to be the best fit for you. So.
And sometimes employers have to put a job on hold. And so it's not an indication of you. They just, all of a sudden somebody said, well, freeze the positions right now. And so with your patience, you're going to say there may be some obstacles or hurdles that you're going to jump over. But for me, everything begins and ends with a great resume. So whether it be a beginner great resume or a super great resume, it's the best way to show somebody who you are and what you've done. And so I think when you can have confidence in what your skills are and your ability and what you're really good at, what do you really rock, and people are going to see that. And that can help you put, you forget sometimes when you're job searching, all the good that you do. And you forget all the good ways you are. And we're here to help bring that out in you and help you remember, like, hey, this is why you like doing what you did. And so that kind of sets that precedent so that when you're prepared for that interview, we also can do like a little mock and do that little sheet that shows all the things that we picked up on while we were asking you questions. So that helps them be prepared.
I think it's important to show that you're passionate about looking for that job,
Yeah.
that you are not like my mom or my dad said I had to, get this job. But,
Yeah.
I mean, but that we pick up on that. And so it's important to show that you're engaged and that you're passionate and that you have a genuine interest in that company and what that company is all about and how you could, like I said, make a difference in that company as
That
well.
emotional.
Yes.
Honesty, if you don't know it, you don't know it. Like,
Yeah.
don't try and
Don't
make
Don't
it-
say you know
Yeah,
it.
just
Yeah.
be honest. 'Cause that is probably one of the most painful things to watch in an interview is somebody just they're grasping for straws because they want to be able to answer a question and they just don't know it. And it would just be so much simpler to say, hey, I don't know, but teach me. You help me learn, help me
Right.
understand what it is that you're talking about. And I'd much rather you go that route.
Yeah.
And in the interview, it's okay to pause and think about a question. You don't have to have that answer immediately as soon as they ask. It's okay to pause, take a deep breath, and actually, once again, be honest about your answer instead of just trying to make something up as you go.
Yeah. And that honesty, like if you get terminated from a job, when you take ownership that maybe you didn't understand the policy. I had somebody that would walk 20 minutes to go to his car to smoke. And then that's when he started his break and finally got terminated after 3 times. So I said, well, what would you do different in the mock interview? He's like, I don't know. What do you think? And I'm like, okay, let's think about this. Where are some of the resources? He said, well, I guess I could understand the HR booklet better. And I said, exactly. Find out what the, break time is, stuff like that. So when he went, after we completed the mock interview, he got asked that question, like, why did you get terminated from the job? And I said, they asked you that? And he said, yeah. He goes, I just simply told him that, I used to be a smoker and I screwed up and took too many times. I wasn't aware, but here's what I will do differently. When I start to work with you, I will know what the time policy is and I will be on time. So I was like, you can't ask for more honesty than that when they take ownership for why they lost their job.
Did either of you have anything else to add?
Be yourself, to be honest. I mean, that makes a big difference.
Okay. So overall, you guys sound great. Thank you so much.